Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kirusho here, and now, before I do begin, let's give a brief little review. In the last part, the group, they had quite a lot of things going on. They were not even back in the wasteland for 2 weeks before Mr. House hired them to track down Courier 6. The man is a menace to the wasteland. And, after a few days, Deku, he started to try and look around with his contacts to find any information about what this man is like. He went over to the Van Graffs with Chloe and found that he is dangerous. The NCR has labeled him a terrorist. He blew up the monorail that connected the strip to Camp McCarran, and he is beginning to do a lot more crazy things that are hurting NCR morale. He's nuked their country. He's nuked their region. The Long 15 was a trade route they used and depended heavily on for some supplies, along with the Mojave outpost being affected by the radiation nearby. Now, with all that happening, they went to the Atomic Wrangler after meeting with Gloria, discovering the man. He is siding with Caesar's Legion in the upcoming war for Hoover Dam. And that's only the icing on the cake, since right now, let's go down to another layer. They went back over to Nellis Air Force Base to grab some supplies to trade with the Gunrunners, getting Marcy an anti-material rifle along with a various number of rounds of different calibers and types. They then went to Camp McCarran, and Deku had a private conversation with Colonel James Hugh, where the man revealed to Deku that the Enclave not only have become more active, but have been actively hunting Courier 6. And it was bad. Either they're hunting him down to hire him, or experiment on him, or potentially because they know. And if they know, that's bad. If Caesar's Legion gets a foothold in this region with the robot army, it gets worse. With the NCR weakened, they're not a viable ally for them to rely on. If the Enclave get that army, it gets worse. They can take over the Mojave and then mass produce their experiments on a wider scale. No more need for secrecy when they're in control. And after that conversation, they left, taking to the air to try and find out where he was. They believe he's somewhere southwest of Helios 1. And right now, Deku, he does sit on Marcy's back as she is flying through the air. Chloe holding on to the heavier artillery. And that, right now, is very helpful. As there is where Deku, he's trying to figure this all out. They flew over Helios 1 not too long ago, looking up towards the sky and feeling the wind go through his hair. They're going to run out of daylight soon. At least in a few hours. 2, maybe 3. It's currently past noon. Right now, they've got a lot of ground to fly over. If the Enclave is hunting him, they are using vertibirds to track him. That or using ground troops. Izuku, he does try to keep that in mind. Him looking through the scope of the anti-material rifle and trying to see anyone on the ground. If they find a vertibird crash site, that means they're on the right path. Them going over the Repcon test facility, and Deku does turn his head. Right now, looking down at the place he woke up at. Would he go to Novak? No, too small. And there's no smoke. There's no gunfire. He could be hiding, still running, or encountered by them. The NCR prison? That's powder ganger territory. A walled-off facility. Unless he's on good terms with them, he wouldn't be able to get inside. But then again, he doesn't see any vertebrates over there. All he sees is the rusty metal, not the stainless steel of a vertebrate. They're fine. Him turning back and feeling annoyed. Marcy beginning to fly over the hills as 30 minutes later, they do to come over one. Deku looking down as he does go to pat Marcy on the back of her neck. Her going to begin to look down and try and scan the area before she does get to see the vertebrate shining off of the sky. And right now, she does go to fly down. Her going to arc and begin to descend. And there is where Deku and Chloe do get to step off and immediately make their way over. Right now, him with his guns drawn and going to investigate. The thing is crashed and burned. Him walking over and putting his hand on the metal. It's almost hidden in the shadow of this mountain. Barely. But there's no heat. It's still warm from the sun, but these engines would be boiling if it was still active recently. Her bending down and beginning to inspect the men who are here. There's a man who's dead from the crash. The pilot, his head is nearly through the goddamn front shield. If he survived his impact, that would be miraculous. If he was still alive, he wouldn't be any use to that brain damage, though. Hell, probably turned to paste in his skull. Her turning and looking at one of the other Enclave soldiers laying dead in the sand. His body halfway cut off by the vertebrate. And she does it to reach over and grab the radio on his belt. Her pulling it free and going to look at the other one. Beginning to loosen it up with one hand. Her pulling the belt off as she does a pull it away and turn to Deku, holding out the radio to him. And he does go to grab it and begin to mess around with the frequency on it, turning it back on and seeing if the batteries are even still working. The radio survived the crash. It might be a bit messed up, but him going to turn to a channel and begin to hear static, turning to another one and adjusting, as he does go to wait. And when the voices do begin to come in clearer the more he messes with the radio, he does get to grin madly, as he does get to hear a sentence. The asset is currently on the way. He is said to be about an hour out, and that is it. I don't know what else to report in. He has a squad of our guys, and I think our situation's bad already. Bad? This is more than bad. He has our goddamn superiors. If they die, then we're going to be held liable for that. And I don't really want to be turned into chow mix for that thing. Yeah. And how you feel? He's just one guy. He shouldn't be capable of doing what he's doing. I know. That's the issue. We underestimated this bastard. Huh. He's a threat to the NCR. And we thought they were worse. We thought they were easy to handle. Been able to stay under their noses for a while. But that's our problem. Hey, don't let them hear you talk like that. Why? Listen, if things are going to go to hell like this, and I'm going to die at least getting this shit off my chest. I don't want these bastards. I don't want those bastards hurting my family. Deku glaring at the radio, annoyed. As he does, go to click the button and go to speak. His family currently is not part of the mission objective. Who is this? I'd advise you to be careful about how you speak to me. Are you a private or a private first class? Are you a sergeant? Are you anyone notable in rank? I've been listening to your conversation, and personal chatter on comms is not befitting a soldier. Him going to let go of the button and go to wait. Him going to press the button again and ask. He wants his name. You know what? Never mind. They'll deal with that later. And if he does feel so inclined, then they'll take care of that family problem of his. Now, what is the status on this goddamn courier? They wanted him brought in yesterday. And so far, they have failed to apprehend him. Sir? I'm not talking to you. Sir, I am acting commander in charge of the operation. Our superior officers were captured by Courier 6, and he's currently held up in the casino. We've surrounded Primm and surrounded the building, but access to the rooftop is limited. We have a squad up there with a vertibird and people surrounding the building. The last team who went in still have not been heard from. We believe that they've been all taken captive by him. He's not human, sir. That's not our issue. Yes, sir, I'm aware the asset is currently en route, but I don't know how your opinion is not needed for this objective nor assignment. Now, you're in Primm, correct? Yes, sir. Good. Stay there and keep your current routine. If you need to do patrols, conduct the area. Make sure you rotate guards and see to it you don't leave any gaps in your rotation. I'd say any chance this man has to go, he'll go. He's like a rat or a cockroach. No matter how much you try and stomp them out, they will survive. Now, I want you to give orders to your men. Rotate your guard and make sure to keep that building surrounded. Yes, sir. And as for arrival time on the asset, I'm currently not privy to that information. That information is above me. Yes, sir. Deku turning off the radio. And he does wonder about the asset. Right now, him making his way back over to Marcy and going to bring up his Pip-Boy. Looking at his map and seeing that they're not too far away from Primm. Turning back and looking at the Enclave guards. Their uniforms are dirty and bloody, but no, that wouldn't work. He still has his horns and he still sticks out like a sore goddamn thumb. Maybe Chloe can sneak in, take him out. That might work, but that does then leave more problems for them. The Enclave have multiple teams in Primm. Okay. They have their objective. They know his current location. Now what? Marcy shrinking down as she does go to sit there on all fours and go to stand up. Right now, her turning to one of the bags and beginning to get some fresh clothes. Since her transformation, it does tear away quite a lot of them quite quickly. and she rather wouldn't be walking around the desert in nothing but rags. Now, she does go to re-equip some clothing and put on some boots. Her tying her laces and asking about their approach, looking up. And Deku, he does go to talk about it. They've still got about an hour of sun left. He thinks they should wait for nightfall. But they also don't know much about the asset. He'd say it's a squad of power armor. A squad? Yeah. They have that freaky advanced shit. If that's them, then we might be dealing with another problem. If they arrive, I don't think we can take them on. Even then, Koko's power armor wasn't that good. It still put up a bit of a run for its money, but he just had a chainsaw. Yeah, but there's 3 of us. True. That's true. If there's any approaching vertebrates, you need to shoot them down. Understood. Good. That can buy us more time. If we can delay the squads, then... Give me a second to think about this. Deku trying to figure it out. Marcy can delay the squads from the sky. They don't know how many people are in Primm. There's a vertebrate on the roof of the casino. Limited access. Okay. But that's the thing. They know he's locked in a building. They know the Enclave is there. The moment those vertebrates make their approach, their cover is going to be blown. Shit. If that's the case, then they have to go loud. How loud, though? Scorch Beast, Deathclaw, and Night Stalker loud, or just mercenary loud? That can work. A middle ground. Him and Chloe sneak in. She covers the air assault. Good. Deku turning to her and talking about it. Keep an eye on the vertebrate at the casino. If things go wrong, they'll take it to get out. But don't fire on it. They're going to be heading west. And hopefully they can arc back around and head for Vegas. Hell, Nellis might be the place they need to retreat to. Nellis? Yeah. While Chloe flies it, I can see about disabling anything that tracks the vertebrate. Are you serious? You want me to fly? Can you fly? Getting it up in the air isn't the problem. But I don't know. If we're being fired at, then it could become an issue. Then don't let it be an issue. Okay? We can handle this. I'll cover you. Okay, I can do this. I'm ready. I got this. Good. We have to have this. Both of them looking at Deku and seeing that he himself does look antsy about this. His breathing slowed down a bit, and his left hand has begun to twitch. That's worrying Marcy as she has to grab him by his shoulder and go to draw his attention back to them. Him going to receive a warm smile and a nod. Him nodding himself and going to turn. Right now, pulling off his duster and beginning his change. As they do make their way to a point outside Primm where they can drop Marcy off and begin their approach. Primm, it used to be a bustling place before the war. It has the Bison Steve Hotel that does have a roller coaster on it. And then there's the Vincent Vance Casino. The place has walls and gates, places that make it a very well fortified location even after the war. The courier must have come here knowing these walls could help him defend the place. He can't be overrun in different directions, and the Enclave would have to take the roads that lead in and out, the only available options. The bombed out bridge that you kind of have to walk through, or the open road that leads towards the outpost, leads towards the Mojave outpost. It means quite a bit. There is only one way in and one way out. If he's inside the Vincent Vance Casino, all he has to do is run straight down that road, and he's got nothing but open desert and at least everywhere from his front, his right, and his left. Place is very well guarded and gated. But he's assuming the Enclave have those entrances covered. With the sky, they can drop in more troops. With the buildings, land, and they're inside. That's a new problem being created. Right now, Deku and Chloe sneaking their way closer and closer as night has finally begun to set in. The last rays of sun beginning to fade. And this does mean quite a bit. Enclave patrols are already rotating. And the guards, they have made their way towards the casino. Deku, he does it a watch on behind the side of a building. It's a lot of people, at least 24. If they get in close, they can take him down. One by one, pick them off. It is an option. And Chloe, she does get a look out and see some guards. Right now, her aware of something she can do. And Deku, he does a turn to her. Her bring her hands up and going to rotate her finger, showing Deku what type of weapon one of them is holding. And Izuku realizes she's making the rotation of a machine gun. And that, it's bad. It's very, very bad. Of course, one of them has a fucking minigun. Right now, her going to bring up a rock. And she does go lean out, turning invisible. Chucking the rock towards the ground, making a bit of a loud noise. And right now, 2 guards do begin to drift off, turning that direction. Aware that they heard something. Right now, them stepping away and beginning to investigate. Deku and Chloe, they do get a wait. The guards begin to approach, and she does go to watch, stepping out of cover, invisible. Making way further and further, taking steps away as one of the guards, they do come to the corner. Right now, them glancing around and not even getting a second to scream. A knife coming up and directly into their throat. Them being pulled forwards into the side of the building. As the other guard, he is alarmed whenever something does a stab him directly in the neck, and he does have someone cover his mouth. Right now, him crashing to the ground in the dirt as he's dragged along and away. And the guards, they are not found. Deku does go to raid the man's pockets. And he does go to find some plasma grenades. Right now, him turning and looking at his weapon. A plasma rifle. Him having an idea. And he does go to begin pulling the cells off of the weapon. Him turning to the other one and patting him down and finding any ammo he has. Currently, Deku reaching into his bag and beginning a bit of construction. In this, Chloe does get a watch. Right now, some guards making their way around and running into another patrol. This being where Chloe does a poke her head out and stare on. Right now, the two groups talking about what's going on. They were supposed to run into two other guards. However, they didn't find them. And these two are a bit confused. Those guys are supposed to be further down by the back end of the casino. I mean, if he tries to run out, if he goes that way, he'd run into the wall. He'd have to make his way completely around, and going right would have been a better option. And the two groups are worried. Them looking towards the direction Chloe and Deku are. And Izuku, he does go to take a roll of duct tape and begin to duct tape the plasma grenades to this cluster of wires and ammunition. Him going to hand it off to Chloe as the button is exposed. Her taking the cluster and pressing the grenade button on the plasma grenade. Her chucking it out as the cluster, it does go to activate. It flying through the air as the group, they do to watch these things come towards them. It crashing to the ground as 6 fusion cells, they do go to roll across the ground behind them. One landing directly at a person's feet as the grenades do begin to go off. And a cluster of 8 grenades do to blow these people away. It causing a lot of commotion that Marcy does get to see with a bright green flash. And that does go to worry her. As Deku and Chloe do get to rush out of cover and run. Right now, them trying to avoid the goo and rushing towards the casino. Them going to get there as the door, it's budged. Deku stepping backwards and going to begin to change. Him throwing his foot forwards and kicking in the door hard. Right now, a desk flying backwards and crashing into some of the slot machines. The two stepping in as there is with Deku, he does get a turn. Him taking a large bench and going to push it against the door as there is where Chloe does get a rush over. Trying to grab what she can to barricade the door. And the two, they're currently being watched by somebody who is not happy to have visitors here. Them beginning to step away from the doors as someone does get a step out, holding up a detonator and going to point something directly at them. And when the two do get a turn, they do get to see Courier 6. Him in body armor and a duster, along with an NCR helmet. Right now, the right helmet going to somewhat shine as he does to glare them down. Talking about it. Well, if ain't more of these chuckle fucks. So what is he... Huh. Well, this is a little strange. A slab of beef and a cutie. So what does he owe the pleasure? After the boom he heard outside, he assumes that they're not with the Enclave? Or what? Are they just some random passerbys who come in? I mean, hell. What does he owe the pleasure of these assholes now? Listen, we don't got no grudge against you. You have something we need. Do I now? See, I don't think so. I don't think I do. I got something you want. No, we need. We can do this the easy way, 6, or we can do this the hard way. I don't care what you do, what you've done. I need that chip. How many fucking people out there know about this thing? Listen, just walk away. You seem like a nice guy, and I don't really want to kill you. I mean, you got this thing going on. And hell, I'm not really that willing to kill some cuties who aren't exactly aggressive towards me. Just go. And I promise I won't blow up the place you're standing. Is it a shape charge? Huh? Is it a shape charge? You're open and out of cover. Or are you bluffing? I'm assuming you know what you're doing. Besides, you've been chased by squads of the Enclave. You can't fortify yourself here for very long. You used a lot to make sure to keep them out. Her turning a finger over her shoulder, talking about how that entire place right there is scorched to hell. And from what she's seen, on their way in, this place has turned into a war zone. If he has anything left, then he's already used it. Maybe you're right. Take a step and see if you're wrong, though. Chloe? Yeah? Step back. Let's go ahead and show Courier 6 exactly what we are. Oh, what you are. We're trying to stop the Enclave. If they do what they did to us, to anyone else, it's going to be a problem. We're vault dwellers. You're lying. All the vaults in Vegas are gone. Not all of them, just most of them. We're from Vault 16. Deku going to begin to grow in size. And 6, he thought this guy was pretending to be the Deathclaw Man. The guy he's heard so much about in the Wasteland. But then, he does get to watch him grow. He does get to watch his hands turn into literal fucking knives. He does get to watch him get thicker skin, bigger hide, his horns elongate, and his jaw protrude into sharpened teeth. And he goes from being nearly 6 foot tall to 7, 8, 9, 11, then 13, and then resting at nearly 16 feet tall. The biggest fucking Deathclaw he's ever seen in his life. And that worries him quite a bit. Right now, him just going to think about what to do. Yeah. Click. Right on the detonator, going off his bombs do go to explode. Them seeing Deku flying backwards and crashing into the ground. Chloe going to turn invisible and rush forwards, beginning to change. Her going to elongate her arms and legs. Her going to lunge over the railing with her hands and then leaping off with her feet. Courier 6 going to be thrashed into the ground as he does go to fire randomly and hit Chloe. Her roaring out as she does go to grab him by his helmet and smash his head into the ground. But she's alarmed over Courier 6. He does go to send her flying with a movement. Right now, him throwing her off of him as he does a scurry back to his feet and turn. The doors being blasted open as there is a noise outside. Deku's ears are ringing. He didn't hear it at first, but now he does begin to hear the whirl of a vertibird. And that is bad. It going to turn as Deku, he does a stare at the front entrance. And someone does come walking in. A large man in a suit of power armor. Right now, Deku staring at him and glaring. But as his eyes do begin to adjust to the flames, he does watch that man begin to grow in size and run towards Deku. His skin turning green and pumping with green veins. This alarming Deku, as their ears of the man does get a collide with him. The two crashing into the vehicle in the middle of the casino podium. Right now, Deku throwing the man off of him, and he does it a crash upwards into the roof of the casino. Him going through it as 6, he does get a turn looking up, seeing some big fucker go through the roof, turning and going to try and run for the door. However, there is where Chloe, she does get a leap onto the railing on all fours, her holding it near like a trapeze artist and going to hiss at him, roaring out with a reptilian tongue. And the guy, he does get to back away, bringing down his hand, grabbing his gun and trying to fire at Chloe. Him using the hunting pistol to fire at her. And she does a leap to the right, turning invisible, her crashing onto some of the slot machines and gonna leap at him again. This time, him going to roll backwards as he does a slide. Right now, firing again and firing again. And she does take another shot to the shoulder as there is where the giant super mutant does come back down, crashing the Greatest Deku, does to get off the vehicle and go to turn. Right now, him going to stare at it as he does continue to grow in size. Talking about it. He didn't expect to see him here. But then again, this does work out well. Bringing them in alive was something the doctors did want. The experiments weren't done. On the Enclave, it will rule. Some of their other experiments, however, have been going well. Right now, Deku going to glare directly at him. John. It's fucking John. And that thought does go to aggravate Deku. Right now, him trying to pull more on his wild side. Him roaring out at this creature. And Chloe does turn her head staring at that. A giant super mutant, and Deku... Is he slipping? Shit. Right now, him rushing forwards and tackling the super mutant, jumping over the vehicle. The two crashing backwards and directly into the wall hard. And the courier, he is still trying to run for the door. Right now, him not caring about the giant fucking vertibird and the giant monsters having a goddamn kaiju battle. Him going to run. And there is where someone does going to make their way towards the door. Right now, them rushing through the fire. And the woman that doesn't stand there does turn her head watching a man run towards her as Chloe, she is leaping through the places she can. Her trying to make her way over the slot machines, over the chairs, and over the railing. As she does get a roar out at Courier 6. And Marcy does a turn, burning up the anti-material rifle, firing directly at him and putting a hole through his gut. The man staggering backwards as she does a turn, staring at the giant monsters, beginning to try and throw each other into the ground, trying to attack each other. Deku, he's large, and right now, he is being thrown backwards into the ground. The super mutant picking him up by his arms and beginning to squeeze hard. Him turning and bashing Deku against the wall as Deku is slashing into his triceps. Right now, him kicking out with his claws and slicing him in the leg. Before he does continue to grow in size. The armor covering him beginning to show more exposed flesh, more exposed muscle. And the helmet, it does begin to constrain his face. Right now, him bring Deku down and slamming him down, breaking one of his arms. Before he does throw his fist down, crashing Deku on the side. Deku going to be picked up as he's tossed across the casino. Him flying through the air, smashing the car and rolling off of it. John bringing his hands up and ripping off this helmet, pulling it away. Since it's useless. He doesn't need it. He's never needed this damn helmet. He has one objective. And Marcy does get to stare at the man. Chloe bringing her hands down and trying to loot the courier. Rummaging through his jacket and trying to find what she can. Marcy, she, however, dropped her anti-material rifle, pulling the quad-barrel missile launcher off of her back and beginning to fire the 4 missiles at John. The first one, it does a crash into him, making him stagger. Her aiming at him again. 2 blasting him in the chest as the third one, she does try to think. Right now him beginning to step forwards as she does go to fire again at his face. Him tanking the missile and going to roar out, growing more in size as there is where Deku, he does begin to get back up. Him alarmed by the feeling of his ribs. And Chloe does go to roar out, she has it! Right now, John turning his attention towards the shiny thing in her hand. And he does go to roar out about how, that's mine! And he does begin to start trying to charge her. Right now, him going to grow more in size to 25 feet tall. And that, it's bad. Him going to begin to kick the vehicle as Deku, he does it roll away. Chloe going to jump out of the way as a charge into and crash directly into the wall of the building. Right now, him bursting through the front of it as the ceiling does get a cave down on John. And Deku, he does begin to try and shrink back down. Him turning and going to be pulled up by Marcy, who does begin to start talking about it. They've got to go now. It's John. Right now, Deku getting to his feet and grabbing his own ribs. The bruising, very visible. And Marcy can tell that he's bleeding internally. Her jabbing the stim pack into him and worrying about the rest later. They need to get out of here. There's a vertebrate on the roof and she took down 2 that were coming in. But he dropped down too soon. It's bad. It's really bad. Right now, them trying to get through the front door that is lopsided. Get through the double doors as there is where they do to find themselves outside. Them going to turn as Chloe, she does go to point towards the ceiling and talk about it. If it's still intact, they can get up there, right? Her growing in size and beginning to scale the side of the building. Her digging her talons in as Deku, he does get a turn back. Right now him trying to take on his aspect as he does go to grab Marcy. Her going to nod at him as she does a jab another stim pack into him. Deku beginning to grow in size and do the same thing. They get up 3 stories. For John, he does go to pull himself off from underneath the rubble and go to roar out. Him grabbing a chunk of debris and trying to chuck it out at Deku. And Deku, he is trying to move fast, trying to keep pace with Chloe. Right now the debris smashing into the building and trying to cut at him. But Marcy does a turn and send out a powerful roar directly at him. The sonic scream blasting down towards him with force. And he does a stagger back and grab at his ears. Her watching the way his eyes go to bulge. And she does a breathe in a powerful breath and screech out again. Him roaring out in pain as he does a crash his fist down into the wall. Him trying to bring down the building more. Bring down everything. And there is where they do to get to the roof. Right now, Deku, him and his large frame have trouble getting over the side. Marcy does jump over and immediately turn and grabbing Deku. Her beginning to try and take on some of her aspect to pull him up. But Izuku does begin to shrink down, him being able to be pulled over as he is having a bit of trouble breathing. And Marcy does gonna notice this, her turning and seeing that the vertebrate is still on stable ground. However, yeah, if this casino comes down, it's gonna get worse. Chloe sitting in the pilot seat and flicking multiple switches and beginning to try and turn this thing on. Right now, it is spinning its blades and trying to power up more. Deku and Marcy rushing over and climbing aboard. As their ears to the ground beneath them does get a shake, get unsteady, feel like it's going to come down at any second. And Chloe, she does go look at the controls and begin to go through the final steps. Her grabbing something and beginning to pull up on it as the vertebrate does come up. It slowly pulling away from the earth as she does begin hovering up higher and higher. And the moment they hover high enough, Enclave troops on buildings do begin to fire out towards them. Trying to fire on the vertebrate and bring it down. Right now, Deku going to turn. Him going to watch Marcy reload the missile launcher and go to hand it off to him. Right now, Deku turning his head and watching her grab the anti-material rifle. Her aiming out and beginning to fire with the explosive rounds. Him hearing the loud boom as he does watch two people go flying. Him going to grab onto the side and throw himself out with his left arm. Right now, him going to aim down and see John, who is taking a massive pile of debris and getting ready to chuck it at them. And he does go to begin growing in size, hanging off the vertebrate. Him leaning as Chloe does try to fight the controls that do begin to blare. And they do immediately begin to swerve to the right towards the Bison Steve Casino. Deku firing out with the missile launcher down towards John as debris does a fly through the air and nearly hit their vehicle. Chloe turning and seeing that, grabbing the set of controls as she does begin to spin. And right now Deku, he does try to hold on, bracing himself as he does shrink down and go to lean back in. Right now them trying to recorrect themselves as he's lean to the opposite side, and Chloe does go to turn and try to counteract again. Them spinning through the air like a large Beyblade. And she is able to get it under control before she has to pull up and they do go just above the roller coaster. Right now, her gonna get ready and go to activate the vertical equipment that does gonna change them from hovering to flying. And the moment the equipment does begin to shift, she is going to feel them moving forwards. The vertebrate going to begin to kick as they do to fly off. And she does go to sit there. Right now, her flying through the air as she does a turn back and looking into the passenger compartment. Seeing that right now, Marcy, she's pulled their door shut. And Deku, he currently does sit there leaning out. Right now, him barfing up whatever he can as he does lean over the side, looking down into the Mojave as the door is then pulled shut. Her turning and going to hold out some equipment to them. Them both putting some on as they do begin to speak to her. They got it. They got the fucking chip. And that's the best part. Right now, they got away and they're free. The Enclave? Yeah, they're gonna be after them. And Deku, he does take a second to catch his breath before he does make his way into the cockpit and begin to try and find whatever he can. Right now, him going to look under the dash and see about the controls. He's going to have to do a more in-depth look at this. But they can park down somewhere first and rip out what they can. Right now, him telling her about how they need to figure out a new location to head to. Now this is a good idea to store this thing, but they need somewhere to do this temporarily. And she doesn't nod her head and talk about it. She knows a place. Them flying off into the night. And there currently is John. John, he is angry, but he did begin to shrink back down. Right now, him just thinking about it. He got to encounter them again. He thought that they were dead. He thought he was the last one alive. But he's not. He gets to have his payback. They abandoned the mission. They abandoned the objective. They abandoned him. And that does make him angry. Right now, trying to think about how he wants to handle them. Deku is strong, but he's stronger. He is going to tan his hide and wear it as a trophy. That he can be certain of. That he does know. Right now, he wants to make sure those traitors die. He wants to get them back and make sure that the glory of the Enclave can be seen. They will rule the wasteland. They were sent here to rebuild the world. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed. Have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.